If you had told me 6 months ago that this day was coming, I would never have believed you. In August 2022, my relationship with my wife felt so strong that we were actively trying for a second child. I was feeling excited as my wife and I had been trying for a baby for a few months now. I was eagerly anticipating the moment when I would learn that my wife was pregnant with our second child. We were keeping track of her basal body temperature, cervical mucus, using ovulation predictor kits, in addition to tracking the menstrual cycle. We also made some lifestyle changes to improve our chances of conceiving. This includes eating a healthy diet, reducing caffeine intake, exercising regularly, and taking prenatal vitamins. We had just taken a romantic trip together. Things were going great. But then, on September 6th, 2022, I discovered she had been having an affair with a 36-year-old weightlifter that she met at the gym. He is also autistic, which I think my wife considers exy. So she started pretending like she's autistic too. Utterly pathetic, if you ask me. The way I discovered the affair is still pretty horrible to think about. One day, while using our computer, I stumbled on some concerning search history. It appears that my wife had been looking for information on morning after pill. I was so confused and worried as we have been actively trying to conceive. I didn't want to jump to conclusion, so I decided to approach her gently and express my concerns. When I asked her about it, she became visibly uncomfortable and started to avoid eye contact. It was then that she finally admitted that she had been feeling unsure about trying for another baby and had been looking into other options. I was shocked and saddened by this revelation. I thought we were on the same page and that we had both wanted to expand our family. I expressed my concerns and asked her to be honest with me about how she was feeling, and we had a long and emotional conversation about our plans for the future. She told me that she had suddenly changed her mind about having another baby. I asked her if another man is involved, and she denied it. I didn't believe her, as is typical among cheaters. The details of the affair trickled out gradually because I hired a private investigator to follow her around. That was when I found out that she was cheating on me with a man that she met at her gym. The private investigator had pictures of them spending a night in a hotel, going on dates after their workout. I got access to her phone and searched for texts with her and her AP. It showed her telling the AP, "I am in love with you. I am dreaming about you. I wish I could feel you next to me, big boy. Lying to others is easy, but I could never lie to you." After I confronted her with the evidence, she said it was just a one-night stand that meant nothing. She spun me a narrative about her struggling with her mental health, but I didn't fall for it. I still can't get my head around how she can go from trying a baby with me to commencing a full-blown physical and emotional affair with another guy in the space of about 2 weeks. Absolutely incomprehensible. The truth is that I was so angry. I remember wishing a painful death upon her and her AP. I am not proud of saying this, and my wife keeps bringing this up as a reason why she's glad she's leaving me. But my anger quickly subsided when I realized how destabilizing this would be for our daughter. That same night, we spoke about whether we had any chance of a future together. My wife said that we didn't. She has fallen out of love for me, and it probably took meeting someone else for her to realize that. I was shocked. We had only been trying for a baby a few weeks earlier. She said she should never have done that. Trying for a baby was just her attempt to convince herself she wanted to stay with me. So, it was on 14th October when she announced she was leaving. In hindsight, I wish I had taken better control of the situation and told her she had to leave. In the days that followed, she started viewing apartments. She told me she wanted to live alone, as this would be better for herself and for our daughter, whom my wife would have for half the week. My private investigator found out that my wife's affair partner had a girlfriend. So out of spite, I called his girlfriend and sent her all the evidence that my private investigator found him cheating with my wife. Apparently, his girlfriend confronted him about his cheating and then broke up with him and kicked him out of the house. My wife came back home, yelling at me, cursing me for breaking up another family, calling me jealous and spiteful, and how karma would catch up to me. If you could hear our argument that night, you would think I was the one that cheated. She tried to turn the tables around on me, like I was the bad guy, like I was supposed to allow her to cheat and then reconcile with her why she continued to cheat on me without consequences. A few months earlier, we were planning on having a baby, and now I should just be quiet about sleeping with another man? So I was skeptical about her apartment search because I knew the AP was also homeless, having been thrown out by his girlfriend once the affair with my wife came to light. I also knew my wife would struggle to afford an apartment by herself in the area that we live in, but my wife promised she would tell me as soon as she makes any decision that affects our daughter's care. Then, a couple of days later, my private investigator was on their tail and he discovered AP was already giving my wife and my daughter lift to child care. My wife never thought to tell me this. Don't worry, I have documentary evidence that this happened. This confirmed to me that I can't trust a word my wife says, even regarding matters that relates to our daughter. So I snooped at her emails and saw she had rented an apartment jointly with AP. I haven't confronted my wife about this yet, but I have saved it for the solicitor. As such, she's still telling me the apartment is just hers. Sure, she admits AP would probably be there most of the time when my daughter isn't there, but that would be completely on my wife's term, apparently. What an outrageous lie. Clearly, she still thinks I'm stupid. Tellingly, my wife has declined help from me and from her family with moving her stuff. I wonder why that could be. How long does she think she can hide the fact that AP will be living under the same roof as our daughter for half the week? Well, the day she moved out, I was feeling bittersweet. I can't believe how the hell we got here when things seems absolutely fine only 2 months ago. We planned on getting a divorce and she wanted it quickly and was willing to let me have the marital home. I was relieved once she left and was able to properly reclaim our marital home as my own. Although the first few days we felt incredibly lonely, I was also dreading the long road ahead as my wife has taken decisions, which means the custody battle cannot be messy, even though that's in no one's best interest. So she's gone. I got home after work. My wife had the last of her stuff packed and ready to go. The marital home that we saved up for, that we decorated together, the home that our daughter grew up in, she just left and she's not coming back. Ugh, I knew this would be hard. And then I asked my daughter if she saw mommy's apartment today. Mommy's apartment, she replied. And then, because clearly I like to torture myself, I asked my daughter who she saw today. She said AP's name. When I spoke to my soon-to-be ex-wife on the phone, she was still trying to play the victim and make us all feel so sorry for her, as if she would be sad and alone in her new little apartment, as if she wouldn't be effing AP morning, noon, and night. As for who has our child for the new few days, the plan is that I collect the child this evening, just before she completes the move into the apartment. She then takes the child back on Wednesday. Between now and then, I will try to get her to admit the fact regarding their living arrangement. When confronted with the lease, she will most likely admit that the flat is in both their names, but that AP stays in his parents on days when my wife has the child. This would almost certainly be a lie, but sadly, one I would struggle to prove. I would then need to decide what legal steps to take. I genuinely want to keep the custody battle out of court, but I found myself dragging her to court because of her constant dishonesty. And the truth is, I'm not sure the court will say she can't live with a new partner unless I have a clear evidence that he's a threat. So, we just need an honest conversation about how we can make the best out of this less than ideal situation. But as I say, my wife doesn't do it honestly, so it will be difficult. I know the address, but she constructed this narrative where she hates me because I told her family about the affair, and therefore I am not welcome there. She obviously knows that's not sustainable, but I didn't think she's capable of planning a day ahead at the moment. She is still in the phase where everything she does is reactive. I took over dropping my daughter at the childcare. Then I was told by the worker at the childcare that AP came to collect her. That really bothered me because I didn't know much about the AP for him to be hanging around my daughter. The next step was confronting the soon to be ex wife about her living arrangement with whom she signed the lease with, and she continued to be dishonest. I wasn't happy with the AP living with her and my daughter, so I went to court. She denied that the AP was living with her since his name was not on the lease. Then why was he picking up my daughter from childcare? I was in constant conflict with her and dreaded any moment my daughter had to stay in her apartment. She told me that I was spiteful and that I should get over it. The divorce process takes only 2 months in my state. My wife gave up the house to me to expedite the divorce process, and she said she was exhausted from dealing with me. So a few days before the divorce is finalized, she sent me an invitation poster for a wedding with AP, thanking me for breaking up AP's relationship, saying good riddance, telling me how much she loves AP and how better he was in bed and how much bigger he is and how I wasn't as manly as the AP. She knew all my buttons and she knew everything that she could say to crush my soul. I would be lying if I say I wasn't crushed. I am not the type that will let things slide, and she knows me well. But I didn't know what to do. She has defeated me in court and gotten whatever she wanted in terms of custody arrangement and child support. She said that I should be happy that she left me the house and that I should allow her and her AP to live in peace. I was so depressed that I didn't know how to move on. A few days later, the private investigator called me because the last payment I sent to him did not go through. As we arranged another payment source, we started talking about my wife and how her life is going, and I told him about the text messages and the upcoming wedding. He mentioned to me that he couldn't believe that my ex-wife would be going to marry that type of man. I inquired what he meant by that, and he said that when he did a background check on him, he had a criminal history. I immediately started stuttering my words when I heard this, and I asked him why he didn't mention it earlier. He told me that he did, but maybe I didn't hear it because that wasn't what I was focused on at the time. Turns out that the AP had outstanding warrants for his arrest across the country for various offenses. He had been using different aliases and had a history of committing fraud, identity theft, and other criminal activities. Apparently, she had been planning her wedding to spend the rest of her life with a man that she knows nothing about. She was probably in a hurry to marry him so she could stop me from constantly bringing up the fact that my daughter is living with a strange man and to finally stop me from dragging her through the courts. That was why she was inviting me to the wedding, out of spite. However, it appears that she knows nothing about this man. Strangely enough, it never occurred to me to check his background. You would think that would be the first thing I did. Even my private investigator found out the name he was using is fake. I suggested to the private investigator if there was a way that he could set him up to be arrested at the wedding. As it turns out, my soon-to-be ex-wife couldn't afford the wedding, and her soon-to-be husband couldn't afford it either. So with the help of my soon-to-be father-in-law and the loan my soon-to-be ex-wife took from the bank, she was able to pay for the wedding. Luckily, my private investigator had friends in the police department, so he arranged for the arrest to occur at the wedding when the happy couple would be tying the knot. I extended the invitation to all our mutual friends and my family members as well. Most of them were surprised that I was inviting them, but I said that I want them to know that I have completely let her go and I want her to be happy and I want to be there to support her. Did I mention that I was a vengeful person? Because I was. I wanted everyone she knows to get a front row seat at her life-changing embarrassment, so I would have a lot of witness at the next family court hearing. On the day the judge signed the final lease decree, she sent me a message telling me how she was finally free from a loveless marriage and an immature man, rubbing it in my face. A day before the wedding, I wanted to look my best, so I went to Men's Warehouse and rented a really nice three-piece suit. Day of the wedding came, went to pick up my parents. They thought there was something wrong with me for being so excited that day. They didn't want to come, but I pressured them to go along with some of our mutual friends. It was a small wedding held in her father's backyard. About 300 guests were there. I know most of them. They were surprised to see me there. While I was at the wedding, my ex-wife texted me, asking me why I was at her wedding and what I was up to. I reminded her that she invited me. During the ceremony, I was there with my daughter and parents and surrounded by both of our family and friends. My presence certainly made everything awkward for everyone, and I enjoyed it. I was sitting in the second row with my daughter and parents. Just as the exchange of vow was about to begin, 5 policemen arrived. They came to the backyard and walked to the makeshift altar. As everyone looked on, confused as hell, they went and handcuffed him at the makeshift altar. I would say the policemen that arrested him were dramatic and got off on things like that. It was like a TV show. Everyone at the ceremony looked on with confusion, like it was a show. They didn't know if to laugh or clap or cry. My ex-wife was confused, screaming and trying to hold back the policemen, hollering at them, asking them what was going on as they read him his Miranda rights. It all started to sink in into everyone that this wasn't an act after he was handcuffed and dragged down the aisle with 2 policemen walking him to the police car. Everyone was left confused as I started explaining to my parents and anyone that was asking for answers about what just happened. My father-in-law and my wife lost a huge sum of money, and my wife is now in a huge debt because of the loan she took out, and apparently she and our AP were supposed to pay it off together. It was very embarrassing to her family. Her parents were livid that she didn't really know the guy. Even her engagement ring was fake. We went back to court and she lost custody of our daughter. Good thing I have been suing her to court for custody since the judge was familiar with our case, and I have documented cases of allegations against her which she was able to defeat, and I have been losing till now. I finally have the evidence that I needed, evidence that she was endangering our daughter by bringing her close to dangerous men. Even her own family wanted me to have full custody. She asked me if we could reconcile, and I told her that we already divorced, not after she broke up our marriage and put our daughter's life in danger. She was an afterthought, and I had her on child support. She was working all the time and even stopped seeing our daughter, too busy trying to pay off all the loans she spent at the wedding. If she was smart enough, she would have taken half of the equity in our home during the divorce, but she was in her affair fog and was in a hurry to divorce me and get rid of me. So she allowed me to have the house, thinking that I would still be paying her child support and share custody. Well, it didn't go as planned for her, and I can see how much she hated me now, that she knows that she has lost and now full of regret, and she's upset that I moved on. I am currently dating around when I get a chance, but I do it responsibly and do not bring